Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. Now, before we get into it, I'd just like to inform you about a new website selling quality current and retro Spurs jerseys, okjersey.com. They sell all current and retro Tottenham Hotspur shirts in all sizes. They sell the current fan and player versions, as well as the 80s and 90s retro shirts, including my very favourite, the 1991 FA Cup final shirt. You can order very easily from okjersey.com, and if you use the code Chris, you will receive an 8% discount off your final order. You can also use the QR code on the top left of your screen. And by the way, they also have some training wear here and the 25-26 colour special edition jersey. Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. My name is Chris Cowlin, and this is another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast the fan show. We'll be bringing a number of Spurs fans on today, talking about the transfer deadline day. Of course, we've got about 25 minutes left of this window. Please do get involved if you're watching on YouTube, on X and Facebook. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Spurs fan, and let us know what you make of the window so far. Now, joining me this evening is, two channel regulars. Craig Dearman is back with us. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, hi Chris. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad, thank you. Expected a bit more today, but don't always get what you want, do you?
And also joining us is sports journalist Josh Hughes. Josh, how are you?
Yeah, much the same as Craig. Expecting, again, nothing to happen in the remaining, 24 minutes of the window now. Classic Spurs, really.
Josh, what were your expectations at the start of this window? Because I think it's fair to say, Thomas Frank, we were down to bare bones against Manchester City, albeit we got a 2-2 draw at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We come back in that 45 minutes. We'll probably talk about that later. But what were your expectations? Because we do have a lot of injuries right now. It's fair to say as well, in the past couple of seasons, we had a lot of injuries under Ange Postecoglou. We've heard many times, certainly since the summer, certainly since Daniel Levy's departure in early September, I might add, about ambition and about fighting on all fronts. We want to win more trophies. We want to compete on all fronts. What were your expectations going into this window? Because, you being a sports journalist, you know that a January transfer window can be difficult.
Well, it can be difficult if you make it difficult. Clubs like Nottingham Forest over the last couple of days of this window and January in general have shown how it doesn't have to be that difficult. If you want to go out and get players, you can. And, Forest been trying for this Celtic player Engels today, and they've rejected 3 bids, but no bother. They've gone and now they're about to sign a Mönchengladbach left-back, Luka Netz, after bringing in Luka. And so Forest have shown that it is possible to do business. Look, as far as I'm concerned, my expectations were that it wasn't a case of nice to haves this window, but a necessity for Spurs. The injury record speaks for itself. It's the largest in Europe's top 5 leagues by some distance. And in January alone, we've seen injuries to Bentancur, to Spence, to Danso, to Bergvall, just to name but a few. So this wasn't a case of Spurs, it would be nice if we can bring a few additions in. Looking at our position in the league table, 14th at this stage, with the number of injuries that we've had, we really needed to do something. And of course, we brought in Conor Gallagher and Sousa, who's not had a kick yet. And now James Wilson, it looks like, is going to get done in time, this 18-year-old Scottish striker who has 2 goals in 10 appearances for them. But that's not a first team signing. It's a loan with an option to buy. And he's expected to go into the under 23s. So, this is not what Spurs needed at all. And of course, this is made worse by the usual PR nonsense that comes from the club. We're hearing reports of £150 million that we could be spending this window. Once again, this is not an issue of Spurs lacking in money. Spurs have the money. We have the financial capabilities to go out and get players in, but Spurs are not prepared to do it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Now, you can say what you like about, off the field or whatever, but Ademola Lookman's just gone to Atletico Madrid. Ederson, also from Atalanta, going to Atletico Madrid. Two very, very good players that would have improved our squad significantly. So there have been players that have moved of real quality. And to me now, the only thing I can see happening if we're going to do anything is now, and I hate to say it because I would never have wanted this move, but Raheem Sterling potentially on a free transfer, because that doesn't have to happen today. That can rumble on because he's now a free agent. And if that's really where we're going, I don't think Spurs fans will be too happy. So I think people are rightly aggrieved. And once again, it's another window. Chris, how many have we done now? And Craig, how many windows have we been sat here saying the same thing on deadline day? We are a number of players short. It's not been good enough. It's not been ambitious enough. And I was reading about Johan Lange apparently going on holiday in the last week of the transfer window in the summer. And I would love to know what that man actually does. I'd love to know what value he actually brings to the football club. He was at Aston Villa. Since he's left, they've gone and started competing. And the signings they've made have been, fantastic. He's come here. And we've lost Paratici now to Fiorentina. Fiorentina have been busy at the end of this window. I wonder who's been dealing with those transfers. I wouldn't be surprised if Paratici had some sort of involvement. And we're left with a clown for a sporting director who's achieved nothing really of note in his career, running the show. And once again, we find ourselves yet again in another transfer window. It's been like this in many transfer windows since Mitchell left the club, where we're short and we're not bringing in enough quality. So, yeah, I think people are rightly annoyed right now. And this is not going to help us, because what happens if we get even more injuries? Which other club in the Premier League can name a starting 11 of injured outfield players, a top quality starting 11 of injured outfield players? And then expect us to, continue to compete in the Champions League, the Premier League, get into a European spot, perhaps. That will be the ambition from the board. And now, unless we sign someone on a free, which is, if anyone, it's probably going to be Sterling. What do Spurs do now? We have to just stick with it. And so, if we get an injury to Van der Ven or Romero, who was taken off with illness, or God forbid, Dom Solanke gets another serious injury, after 4 goals in 4 games. We are absolutely stuffed.
There's one thing showing ambition in a January transfer window, but there's another thing about actually signing players because we need them, because we are down to bare bones, like you guys have mentioned in the last couple of days, particularly you, Craig, on the post-match Man City podcast, about our depth. You only need to look at the last couple of games, looking at our bench to know that we've got a number of academy players there. Thomas Frank has said on a number of occasions that we are in the market. He mentioned this again after the City game on Sunday evening, which I think all gave us a little bit of hope and belief that we would get a signing or two in today. But as we're talking now, there's 17 minutes left of the window. As Josh mentioned, if anyone hasn't been keeping up to date with it today, in the last couple of hours, Fabrizio Romero has given us the here we go for the 18-year-old forward from Hearts in Scotland, James Wilson. Now, he first made his debut in the Scottish Premiership in the 23-24 campaign. He has made 32 appearances in league competition for Hearts, scoring 5 times, and he's made 45 appearances in total in all competitions, scoring 8 times. He made his full international debut for Scotland last year in 2025, the youngest man to ever feature for Scotland, aged 18 and 17 days, and that was surpassing the record set by John Lambie, which stood for 138 years. So this is clearly another player for the future. As Josh also mentioned, 2 first-team players that have come in this winter window are Sousa, the left back from Brazil, from Santos. He has made a total of 38 appearances for Santos, scoring once. And of course, midfielder Conor Gallagher, who we signed from Atletico Madrid. an experienced player, 25 years old, played 95 games in all competitions for Chelsea, scoring 10 times, loans at Charlton, Swansea, West Brom and Crystal Palace. Then, of course, left Chelsea, went to Atletico Madrid, played out in Spain for a couple of seasons, 7 goals in 77 appearances in all competitions. And so far, he has played 3 games in the Premier League for Tottenham. Craig, how are you feeling right now about the window, and how are you feeling looking ahead to the games from now until the end of the season? Because we are at bare bones. We're down to bare bones, and we don't have much depth. And if we want to be climbing that Premier League table, and particularly going far in the Champions League, we seem very light. We're very light.
Yeah, we are. Again, how do I feel about the transfer window? Very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. I've been trying to think about it today, actually, as to why we haven't signed these players. We know that they are preparing for the next transfer window as soon as the previous one shuts. So they've had 4 months to prepare for this and get their targets sorted, and they haven't managed to do it. You mentioned the 2 youngsters that we have brought in. I would argue that Sousa's probably not ready for Premier League football as it stands, even though he was on the bench yesterday. You'd think he would spend more time in the under-21s. So essentially all we've done is brought in Conor Gallagher to replace Brendan Johnson.
Yeah.
And that was, I still think that was probably born out of necessity because of the injuries to Bentancur and other players. So really, we haven't actually spent any money, essentially, really, this window. And that's probably down to, I've kind of narrowed it down what I think it is, and people can make up their own minds what they think this is, or it could be a combination. Number one, they just simply don't want to spend money. Number two, they don't want to invest money in Thomas Frank because they're not sure about how that's going to go with him. Is he still going to be here in the summer? Is he going to still be here by the end of the season? Or three, they're Langer and anybody else involved in it is incompetent, because surely we would have brought in signings by now. And I know you just don't sign anybody. Absolutely, I get that. But come on, we all know we needed a left winger, and we haven't even sniffed one out. So other than Thomas Frank giving that excuse that we tried to sign Semenyo, it's the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. We don't need to know that. We don't want to be about trying. You need to sign players. And yeah, absolutely
Right.
Abysmal.
I'm going to add in a number 4, and I know this might frustrate a few people as well, but I do get the fact that the club want to sign players for the long term, for long-term vision, for long-term planning, rather than just to get us out of a hole this season. However, my thought process is that if you could get a couple of players on loan until the end of the season to help us, particularly in the final third with the amount of injuries and struggles that we have had. But I do get, clubs like to plan for the long term. There's no point just bringing in someone for a quick fix. But I just feel like there needs to be, 1 or 2 players to make a real difference in this window. Josh, what before we bring in our first guest, what rating out of 10 would you give the window?
1, 2 at best. I think Gallagher's a good signing, and it was good that he got his first assist, with that cross for Solanke's scorpion kick yesterday. And I really like what Gallagher brings to the team. I think it was always going to take him a couple of games to get back up to speed with Premier League football. I think La Liga have that winter break as well, don't they? So that was always going to be, take a couple of games, but it's not good enough. I mean, again, we knew we needed a left-sided forward. We knew that. And once again, this is a classic Spurs window where, I'll be honest, look, I like Matisse Tell's attitude. I like Kolo Muani. I think he possesses some quality, but neither of them have shown enough quality consistently. But Spurs are backing players that are not performing anywhere near the levels that they should be and trying to keep them rather than getting deals done. But Craig, you got it spot on. Gallagher's come in with the same money that Brennan Johnson went for. So we're actually a net loss of attacking players. The club will argue, no, we're not, because Dom Solanke's fit. But this is the problem. We've sold Brennan Johnson. If we weren't going to sign another attacking player, we should have kept him until the end of the season. This is the crazy thing. We have had an absolutely rubbish window. We've not strengthened in the areas we needed to strengthen. Sousa, arguably, and he's going to possibly be forced into first team action now with the long-term injury to Ben Davis, who's out for the season. But again, I've seen some comments, talking about recalling loan players. Why don't we recall some loan players? I don't know the details of some of these loan contracts, but Chelsea have recalled someone from Strasbourg. I think they've recalled a player called Sarr from Strasbourg who's going to be involved at the weekend. Spurs, we're not doing that. We've recalled some players from loans and have given them other loans, and fair play. A couple of the loans seem to be working out quite nicely at the moment, but we're nowhere near it. We're so short. And as Craig said, we've had months to prepare for this. We've known we've been short in that left wing department.
Who are you thinking about recalling, Josh? Who do you think would get in this Spurs team who is currently out on loan?
Vuskovic walks into the starting 11 right now. But I don't know what the details are of that, and I'm sure he wouldn't be happy with that. There's a story with Vuskovic and his brother getting suspended for doping, alleged doping, and they've always stood by him and said he was innocent. So there's a story there. Bayern Munich fans are already rubbing their hands with glee, thinking that they're going to sign him in the summer without him kicking a ball competitively for Spurs. That's just one example, right? I think Abbott, he's just gone on loan to Mansfield Town, but I've seen enough of him to see that he possesses enough quality as an option, to give some minutes to if we need to. Maybe he's not ready yet, but we're kind of at that point where we're giving Janai Byfield minutes at the age of 17. So why not give someone like Abbott some minutes if we are short? He's had plenty of first team experience and exposure in the Football League. Even Alfie Dorrington. Dorrington's just gone on loan to Salford. And with Danso, we don't know the extent of his injury yet. If he snaps a ligament in his toe, that can be anywhere from a few weeks to several months. So, and the thing, Mikey Moore's had a really good start to life at Rangers. He's a left-sided forward player.
Mm-hmm. And they saw this coming, Josh, right? So what's wrong with Jamie Donnelly? They knew kind of we was up against it in December. So Robin's just commented Lancashire. Lancashire, yeah.
If I remember correctly, he scored in at Galatasaray, and Lancashire's a player that I really like the work rate of. And I found that the decision to loan out Dane Scarlett at this moment in time to Hibs, very, very bizarre.
Josh, before we bring in the first guest, let me just take this question here and get your point of view, because Craig touched on this. AAJ 1973 writes here, looks like the board is not backing Thomas Frank, which I would suggest is the main reason there hasn't been activity that we would have hoped for. Do you agree with that? Because the amount of times that we have heard Thomas Frank now, particularly in these last few weeks, talking about his lunches with Vinay and other board members, stating that they are all aligned. He seems very much confident that, Spurs are going in the right direction. The performances are progressing and they're getting better. He seems to be very happy right now, Thomas Frank, and very confident that he is being backed at the football club.
The whole thing is utterly bizarre. And I actually feel for Thomas Frank, because while I don't think Thomas Frank is going to be the long-term, success at Spurs that, I'd hoped him to be, and I'm not convinced at all by what I've seen from Thomas Frank thus far, he is going out and looking like an idiot. The board is completely showing him up. If the board is not going to back the manager that we have at the football club in a transfer window, then sack him. Were the poor results? Was poor result after poor result after poor result, defeat after defeat, and us falling into 14th in the very first place, not enough to see Thomas Frank go by now? And the decision was that he was going to stay at the club. He obviously got saved by that Dortmund game, and then we drew at Burnley. Everyone was up in arms again, and had we not had Dom Solanke's brilliance in the second half, and in fairness to Frank, he changed the system and it did make a difference. You know, had we gone and lost that game 3-4-0, where would we be standing now? Would Frank still be being, backed as the manager? So I think it's pathetic. It's spineless from the board. If you're going to keep a manager at a football club, then back him. And if not, then sack him. And, I think Spurs fans would accept this if, the situation was we had already sacked Thomas Frank and we were going to get an interim, say Harry Redknapp, till the end of the season. And everyone knew that the play was we were going to try and get Poch back after the World Cup, right? Just as an example. I think that would be more understandable. But the fact is that fans like myself, Craig, thousands of others have said, Thomas Frank is out of his depth. This is not working. The board has decided to stick with him. Vinay Venkatesham wrote that, brilliantly executed piece of PR to supporters with that letter, and none of the stuff mentioned in that letter is coming into fruition when you've had the transfer window in January to at least give us a sign, but none of us are even getting a sign at the moment. This is the crazy thing. So to your question, Chris, if you're not going to back him, then sack him. There's no excuses otherwise. And this is entirely on the board and the recruitment team at Spurs. Entirely.
And they haven't backed him then, Josh. So it's kind of like the second part of your question. Why is that not happening? Because they clearly haven't backed him. And do you know what I don't want to see over the next couple of days? A transfer window rap video by Johan Langer and Vinay Venkatesham pop up on the Spurs social media. I've got no interest in it. I don't want to hear what you've got to say because you've failed. You've failed again.
But Craig, that if they don't put out a video or communicate in any way, shape or form, that they will be criticised for not doing that as well.
100%. It's probably a no-win situation, but it's a situation that they didn't need to get themselves into. They've managed this whole situation terribly. They've probably had doubts about Thomas Frank since mid-December, possibly even before. And they've dillied and dallied, and they had the chance, as Josh said, they've had many opportunities to get rid, and they haven't. They haven't planned.
Here's a question for both of you. How about honesty? How about they come out and give some honesty?
You're asking now.
Well, this is my point. It's my point, right? We lose a football match and the manager has to front it and the players front it and they say, we were nowhere near good enough. Performance wasn't good enough, whatever it is, right? The board gets an easy ride the entire time. Of course, yesterday there was a planned walkout 75th minute that never happened because we'd gone from 2-0 down to 2-2, looking like we could win the game. The board keep getting an easy ride, and whenever things get too tough for the board, all they do is press the big red button, sack the manager, and hope that the next manager comes in, and then the board get it easy for the months following until we get into the same position. This is a cycle that has repeated itself time and time again over the last decade, where as soon as it gets really bad on the board, they sack the manager. Everyone says, right, let's get behind the new manager. The pressure from the fans on the board completely disappears.
We know.
Square one.
We know, Josh and Craig, we know very much that the fan base can always be very mixed on these types of situations. Lucrative Lee J writes here, guys, you're waffling. You're waffling rubbish. Well done, Spurs, for not signing just anyone. We need the best and right players. They aren't available, so let's move on and play. Now, I'm going to ask you guys in between bringing on the guests, because we will get into it. I just want you to think about this at the moment. Do you think that we will have a better window in the summer? Do you think that we will go big and really be ambitious in the summer window? Because with the, you mentioned Vinay's statement and his letter to the fans, Josh, that is a big statement and that is a big promise. He has come out and said what a lot of us have stated before about we need, experience, we need leadership in this team, and we need, depth in the squad as well. He mentioned so many things in that statement. Just think about that for a minute, and I'll come back to you two. We're going to go straight to New Zealand to speak to Dave. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. How are you feeling right now?
Hey, Chris, Craig, and Josh. Just a massive frustration, as probably every fan has. I mean, watching the comments, and everyone's playing out. Everyone's just ripping out the board. And just seems like there's a new ceiling of ambition and expectation. And, there's a lot of lies being told, and maybe they just feel like, I don't think we're going to go down. That they just think, let's just see it out to the end of the season. I don't know. It's just so frustrating. I just don't get what's happening. The worst thing for me at the moment now is all the talk of the injuries. That's probably the biggest thing on my mind, because he was saying now he's got a scapegoat, and all the fans are talking about the injuries as well. But we had only 3 key injuries at the start of the season, and Matters, Kulu, and Solanke. We were playing just as badly, I thought. So, like, the fact that we're in this predicament now with so many injuries, how many of them actually maybe just don't even want to play? It just seems crazy that so many are going down. I just don't get it. Like, Spence, what's he done? A calf. Like, I just don't see, anything happening at all. Like, until the end of the season, I just can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. It's the worst season I can recall since I started following Spurs in Hoddle days. At least last year, even though we're conceding goals, we're playing attractive football, and the thought of Frank going on about injuries now, even mentioning them and saying we're down to the bare bones, it just doesn't cut it now. And I think the way the board sees it is we're going to be okay. I don't know. That's my gut feeling, is that the board's just sitting on the fence and going, I don't think we're going to go down. West Ham's 9 points adrift, and probably got 6 or 7 winnable games, and so have we till the end of the season. That's from what I'm looking at. Are we going to fall below them? It's probably unlikely. And, with the likes of some of the players that we've got now, there are some players like Xavi and Gallagher and Solanke who put so much energy in. Like, those 3 boys disappear, if they get injured, I think, things could get really bad. But whilst those 3 in particular on the field, it seems like we've got some balls out there and a lot of energy and a lot of commitment with those 3. They've shown a lot of promise. And I called Xavi out thinking he was weak as piss, when he first started, when he played in those London derbies, and I was like, what have we signed here? But he's turned a massive corner, and I just full credit to the boy for showing so much tenacity and just try to prove a lot of doubters wrong. All we can really concentrate on is what's going on the field, because we know we're down on troops. We know the board's full of bullshit, really. There's no way they've got, saying we've got all this ambition, we want to compete on all fronts. It's
Dave,
in my mind.
Dave, has it got worse since Daniel Levy left?
Feels like it. Yeah, 100%. I don't know a lot about what's going on. The thing is, how many of us actually know what's going on with those board members? Like Josh was saying, and a lot of the comments here about Vino coming from Arsenal, and it's like, what are these guys actually doing behind closed doors? How much effort are they putting in? You talked about Lookman, Semenyo. Can we get those guys? Do they want to come here? Are they actually trying hard enough? At the moment, it feels like the problem we've got is now we've got this new ceiling of expectation of almost not being a top 4 side anymore. And it's the first time I can recall that, ever feeling that way, having such a low self-esteem as far as Spurs ambitions for the season goes. But yeah, if the players all come back, the ones that are injured, we could be quite a solid squad. There's a lot of key players. We know we are, if they're all on the field, we'd probably be playing better. But I still think Frank's, I don't know why have they not sacked him? It's just crazy. Is there no one else that can come in and just be just sit on the role until the end of the season, because he's dropped the ball from so early, and now he's got the scapegoat that with all the injury lists, and it doesn't cut it for me. I just think it's just horrific, like the fact that he's still here. It's tough watch.
Dave, do you remember in the summer when Vinay did that video, and the club did the video when Ange got sacked, and they were talking about wanting us to compete on all four fronts, and compete for silverware? And what would you put this season down to more than anything? If you had to sort of categorize, what would you put the issues at Spurs down to? How would you rank it in terms of biggest issue to?
I think Frank. There was obviously everyone was excited about Frank and developing our younger players, which has kind of never happened. He's been the biggest problem in terms of the style of football we played. We've just had no. Here's an ex-Brentford. Look how well they're doing now. He had. They're performing better without Mbembo and Visser and Frank. So he's the biggest problem that needed addressing, and we haven't addressed it. So from last year, we had Ange, who had balls of steel. He had just fight, and I just loved the way he'd go up to a guy and grab him by his throat if that was the way he wanted to get through him, right? Whereas just feels like Frank would try and talk his way through a scrap. Like Ange, he was the man for Spurs. He suited the model so well in terms of his desire and his hunger for scoring goals, for attacking football. I mean, I think if we're in this position now and we're playing similar football to last year, wouldn't be as bad. But it's just so many halves. We're now playing bit games. We're playing like the odd good first half or the odd good, mostly good second half. But in the first half of the season, it was most of the games. I was like, it just can't be forgiven what he's done. We can't just rule the lines through it and forgive him and go, okay, now it's the injuries. We've got to stay back there when he was just not giving us anything, making all the wrong decisions, picking the wrong players, putting them in, just not playing through the middle, coming backwards and sideways like every single fan's talking about with Spurs. So that's just unforgivable. But they're probably just going to keep him on for the rest of the season. It seems that way. Like, even if we lose to United, lose to Arsenal, Newcastle, I just think I'd be surprised now at this point if they do pull the pin on him, if they sack him. I think it would have to come down to us being 3 points off the bottom three or something like that. I just see that maybe they're just going to hope that we'll get through to the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us, Dave, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers. Right, we're now going to go to Canada to speak to Colin. Colin, how are you?
Hi, guys. How we doing?
We're doing all right, Colin. The window is now officially closed.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I should have mentioned, actually, the signing of James Wilson. We were given the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio Romano has actually confirmed, as well as a lot of other media outlets, that he will actually go into the development team or squad, not the first team squad. So it is actually only 2 signings for the first team that we have completed in this winter window. Colin, what rating out of 10 would you give this window? And where are you at the moment as a Spurs fan? Are you staying calm? Do you think it's going to be a big window in the summer?
I guess you couldn't rate the window much higher than a 3, and the only reason it would get a 3 is because I think we saw last game what Conor Gallagher can bring to the table. After a rather quiet first 2 games, I thought he was really kind of what we expected on the weekend. I liked what I saw from him. Beautiful setup to Solanke for that incredible goal. But a three is generous. It's just based on one player because the Brazilian kid is 18 or 19 years old, a left back, and I don't know anything about him. And the other kid, as you just said, is going to be a junior team guy. I don't know if I'm staying calm. I'm just listening to the interesting things people have to say and thinking of all the different players in terms of the players writ large in the club with management, the board, the team, and so on. And really that there's no simple or easy fix here, obviously. And I think anytime we're looking at a corporation that's run by a group of people, I mean, they've done TV shows about that stuff for a reason. I think there can be a lot of cross purposes and a lot of different viewpoints, and it's hard to make strong, definitive decisions when it's running through. I don't even know how many people are on the board. What is it, 5, 6, 8 people? How many do you guys know? You must know.
So many changes.
Yeah.
Many changes. Yeah.
So I think what's happening right now is Thomas Frank is in survival mode. He's trying to hang on for as long as he can. And I think any of us would do that. I think what bothers us is he doesn't seem to be able to communicate in a way that people believe. He seems rather disingenuous, and I think we're tired of that. Somebody said earlier to just come out and say, look, that was terrible, and you get that from other managers. Managers will call it as they see it more so than he will. But I think he's in survival mode. I think there's a lot of moving parts right now that he's just trying to manage and navigate. And, what it comes down to as well is the club's making money. The club is we're in top 10 money earning clubs in the world. Yes. And that didn't change this year. We're still making money. Maybe there's going to be some bottom line problems at the end of the year. We've got a ton of injuries. Manchester City brought on how many different guys that would start for Tottenham? Every substitute they brought on, we would absolutely love to have. And we probably didn't have anybody on the pitch, I'm quite certain in saying, that would have started for Manchester City on the weekend. So we have this incredible disparity in talent in our club. And I'm not disparaging our players because I'm a Tottenham fan. And I'm optimistic. I like seeing these guys progress. We're not seeing a ton of progression under Thomas Frank, but I'm hopeful for them. I'm hoping for them. I'm cheering for them. It bothers me when I go on shows and I see that it's so easy to say, oh, so-and-so is rubbish. Well, they're not rubbish. If they've made it to the level at which they're at, relatively, they may be below certain players within the league, but I think we have some talented young players, but we have a very young team. We've got a lot of injuries. And I just think that realistically, it's a tremendous undertaking that's going to take a protracted amount of time to get this club back to where we're comfortable with it. And I think, the disappointing thing again, we could rewind to a show last year and talk about the January transfer window, and we'd be having the same conversation, is we feel we're being kind of lied to and led along. I was on a couple of weeks ago, Chris, and you asked me about the statement that was released by the top brass at Tottenham. And, we've heard these kinds of things before, and I just want to see the rubber hit the road. I want to see players being signed. And I don't care about the letters going out to the fans because I don't think it's very meaningful.
Colin, what's the best we can hope for this season now?
I don't know. When you look at the schedule, I don't think if you look at a lot of records above us, last 5 games, there's a lot of weak records, a lot of people that have not performed great, a lot of teams that have not performed great, but I don't know. We're probably not going to crack the top 10. I think if we're lucky, we're in something like 11th place, that we're clearly out of relegation, that we're not at the risk of relegation, which I don't think is impossible that we could be. I think it would be a lot of bad luck if we ended up in a relegation battle, but I think they're kind of, we're looking at top 11, somewhere around there, I think would be a reasonable expectation, if things go well and if we play well.
Colin, with the fixtures we've got coming up this month, we've got Arsenal, Man United and Newcastle all this month. Are we being overly optimistic to say that Spurs are not in a relegation battle this season? If you look at the results we've had so far this season, the fact that, West Ham, of course, they lost to Chelsea, seems to have done us a big favour. That, is it actually far-fetched to say that we are in a relegation battle?
It feels far-fetched. But realistically, if you look at the numbers, I don't think it's impossible. But I couldn't, and I could be wrong, of course, but I can't imagine that we'll be in a relegation battle. But it's not a given that we're going to stay in the league. That's maybe not a clear answer, but I can't imagine that we'll be in a relegation battle because I couldn't fathom it. But I also think it's not impossible that we could be, absolutely.
Rob writes here how far this club has fallen in such a short period of time. And I completely agree. I feel like some people do moan and whinge a lot about Tottenham. But I tell you what, when you have positive people, positive fans that want to be positive about the club, sometimes it is extremely tough. And that is where I fall into at the moment. I'm trying to be positive about things. But when you look at some of the decisions, and I've spoken about, some of the poor decisions, made by certain board members over, the course of some years, it's deeply frustrating. It really is. And when you look at the league position we're in, yes, we're through to the last 16 of the Champions League. That is a real bonus. That is a real positive of our season so far. But when you look at the league position, we need players through the door. And like Josh and Craig have said many times, we've had a long time to prepare for this window. It is deeply disappointing. Colin, thanks so much for joining us, and we will speak to you again soon.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks. Have a good day.
Cheers. Thank you. We're now going to go to the Czech Republic and to speak to our good friend Steve. Steve, how are you?
As well as can be expected under the circumstances, guys. Yeah. So good evening, everybody.
Steve, are you surprised? Are you surprised by this window?
No. I'm not surprised by anything anymore from this the board and the team as a whole. The guy just said there that the board just kind of spout empty words and promises and these stupid letters they put out. And unfortunately, I find most of the time the same thing with Thomas Frank's press conferences. We're going to play on the front foot against whoever it is. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It never happens. The board are promising this and that, and it hasn't happened. They're really making themselves look stupid, and they seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet. I think, to be honest, and we're all hopeful we would get one or two players in, but I think deep down, or at least me anyway, I've been a fan for quite a long time, and more recently, I didn't expect us to get anyone. I was hoping we would maybe get a left back, get a left winger, maybe a striker coming in late, but to be honest, when nothing was really happening the last couple of days, I didn't expect anything to happen, anything further in the window. So,
does that surprise you, though, Steve? Knowing that what we know that we knew the positions we needed to strengthen, and you mentioned half of them there. So, who is to blame? Is it simply that it is difficult to get players in and they didn't want to buy just anyone, or is Langer not doing his job right?
I think it is more over Langer not doing his job properly. Probably, I would think so. I mean, for example, I don't know if you guys wanted him, but what was the problem with Mateta? Why didn't we want him?
I took him.
Yeah, I would have taken him as well. It's a weird one.
He had more medical tests at Milan, and they weren't happy, so they pulled the plug.
Well, look at them go now, though. They've just signed Jürgen Strand Larsen.
Yeah,
Dazzling Dave will be gutted with that, but they've also agreed a deal for Dwight McNeil. So they brought in Johnson, McNeil, and Strand Larsen, and now they're keeping Mateta as well. So it just shows you can have a net positive transfer window.
You can. I mean, I personally wouldn't want Larsen. Really don't rate the guy, but what do I know? That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, it's in terms of the window, it's very disappointing. But on a higher note or a bit more positive note, I thought we did really well, obviously, in the game yesterday in the second half.
Yeah.
Considering that the team we had to put out due to all the injuries, as we know, they did a bloody good job. One of my questions is, like, really to Frank, if I could speak to him, is why you didn't play the formation in the first half that you did in the second half. I know he lost Romero, but we were totally overrun in the midfield. So it's like a tactical question, really, more than anything else. Because they were playing narrow, and I thought, I presumed they were going to play narrow anyway. Most people know they play quite narrow lately. And we were just lost in that midfield. So, but the way we came back, I think surprised or shocked most Spurs fans. So, and after the Champions League results, he seems to have given himself a stay of execution, if you like. So,
can I put a question to all three of you and perhaps the viewers as well? So, when the Spurs board see that we can play and perform like that in the second half, when we have so many injury issues, do they say to themselves, and Thomas Frank, well, actually, you've done without all of these injuries, your team can still perform like that in the second half against one of the top teams in Europe, one of the top teams in the country, Manchester City. You can perform like that. Now, you've got players coming back soon, so it will get better for you. So do we actually need to sign any players? Do you think that conversation has actually taken place? Because I find it absolutely crazy sitting here thinking that we've got all of these tough games coming up.
Yeah.
We needed to do more in this transfer window, but what is the reasoning behind it?
I think there's certainly an element of truth in that, Chris. I think it's more that they look at the squad and see the players that are injured and are going to come back reasonably soon. So I think there's an element of truth. It's probably about 50% of it, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they've had those conversations and probably somebody who's not really a football person turn around and say, well, look, we've got this asset, because that's how they refer to him as. Yeah, why are we buying more?
Because it's the depth. And I feel like I say this same old thing. I feel like a broken record every single transfer window. You're talking about not only the starting 11, but the depth. And the depth is so important. Well, it's not like the old days where you'd play the same 11, week in, week out. That just doesn't happen in the modern game now.
No, I would jump in on that and say, yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with everything Craig said, but I think specifically what they're probably thinking is that there's no one on the market that's better than what we've currently got. And is it worth risking the hassle? I mean, we've already seen Matisse Tell, I wouldn't say throw his toys out the pram, but certainly it was well reported how vocal he was with being unhappy. And he's had these sort of crisis talks with Frank, and that seems to have sort of smoothed itself over. They were very quick to shut down rumours of Juventus wanting to, well, I say rumours, Juventus were very clear that they wanted to try and bring Kolo Muani back to the club. So I think they probably thought, well, what you're going to get is not better than what we've currently got. And they probably think, well, just stick it out. But the only other thing I can think of, and someone mentioned it in one of the comments, was, we've seen reports about Daniel Levy potentially selling his stake in the club. And there's been rumours for years about what's going to happen with Spurs. I mean, let's not forget we're now... Well, very soon it will be 6 years, won't it? No, even 7 years at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, won't it? It was 2019.
Yeah. 2019.
So 7 years. We're coming up to 7 years at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. No naming rights deal. And, is the only other thing I could think of, and it's a complete punt in the dark, is the club seriously considering selling now? Because we've had this transition period. Levy's gone. The control has been given to the Lewis family, the children, to Vivian, effectively. Are they now contemplating selling the club? So they're thinking, well, there's no point us investing. That's the only other thing I could think of.
Josh.
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a very good point, actually.
Josh, it's interesting. Steve says, and Craig said this to me the other day as well, and I think you did. Crystal Palace signed Strand Larsen in a deal worth up to £48 million. 48 million. That is what you're going to get, Strand Larsen. Mary writes here, I actually thought that we'd done well yesterday against Manchester City and thought we don't need to sign any more players. It's funny, isn't it? How divided and how mixed the Spurs fans are on what we need to do in transfer windows. But what I would say, Mary, is that if you looked at our bench against City, a number of academy players that have never even played in the Premier League before, so that is not great depth in the Premier League for us.
I would also agree that I don't think there's really any quality out there that we could get to really improve the squad. And perhaps they're looking at, the summer window where we're going to be offloading quite a few people who have already said, players that said they want to leave, or they've intimated they want to leave, like Richarlison and Vicario, and even Mickey van der Ven's supposed to be unhappy. There's rumours around Romero to Real Madrid and all these kind of things. I mean, so perhaps the board are thinking like that,
Steve, I've said to you many times, I love doing these shows, but I love it when I'm smiling. I don't like it when we're all sitting here moaning, and I feel like this is going to be us moaning for the next couple of hours. I can't. No,
what it says is sign Ricky Norwood on a free.
Oh no, don't even go there.
No, that's the one. Sorry, I had the wrong one. That's the one.
Let me. What's that one?
Well, that might make you laugh.
Oh, okay.
You need a smile on your face.
Right. That's all he's been going on about, that goal.
Going on about top bins. Jesus.
Well, Steve, last one for you. Talk to me about this one. Death by Spurs. What a name that is. I'm sick of hearing this club say they're going to go big in the summer. They never do. The last statement signing we made was Van der Vaart back in 2010. How many times have you heard me banging on about the last world-class signing was Jurgen Klinsmann in 1994?
Every time we talk about transfers.
Who was the last one you got really excited about?
The same, Klinsmann, really. Yeah, as a new signing. Yeah, a world-class player. Van der Vaart was good though as well. Yeah, excellent. I can't really think of anyone else, to be honest. I think we're hanging on to Kinski, which obviously from this part of the world keeps me happy. I don't know what all that was about with West Ham.
Yep.
Getting him, I thought that was totally stupid. Anyway, we don't. But I do. I think there's a lot going wrong, not only in the board but with the team. When, like I said before, I find it totally amazing when you get somebody like Vicario, who's supposed to be part of the team. The three of them. What do they call the group? A little group with Romero and him. What's the name of that group?
The leadership group.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. The leadership group. Once you get to my age, you forget your own name. The leadership group. To me, I'd take him out of that immediately. As soon as he said he wants to go back to Serie A, Vicario. Okay, well, you're no longer part of the leadership group because he's no longer part of the plans. There's all these small little things. That I don't think Frank's got enough discipline, as you mentioned before. It's like someone mentioned there, the guy from New Zealand, about at least Ange, if you had something to say to you, say it to you, get you around the throat and say, give you a kick up the arse. Bit old-fashioned management. I can't imagine Frank getting really upset with people. I don't know. I don't like the character. He's not honest, as a few people have alluded to. With his comments, he doesn't say, "Oh, we played really abysmally," against Chelsea or against Arsenal. He doesn't hold his hands up. He comes out with all this waffle, and I don't like people like that, especially not managing Tottenham. He's totally ingenuous.
Matthew Dixon says here, every January we say the summer window is the one, and then the summer window comes and goes. Matthew, I'll tell you what, I expect that I have just fallen into that as well, because I think moments after me saying the January window or the winter window is closed, I'm talking about the summer one already. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Yeah,
thanks very much, guys. Sorry I couldn't add anything a bit more positive, but
thanks for the post-it note. Yep.
Cheers, Steve.
Ricky will love that. Cheers.
Yeah, give my regards to Ricky. Cheers. Boy.
Right, we're now going to go to Ireland to talk to Noel. Noel, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. Yourself and Craig and Josh.
Hello, mate.
Good evening to you.
Noel, let's start on a positive, I suppose. What did you make of the second half against City?
Absolutely brilliant, Chris. First class. Myself and my son were talking about it at half time. a back three doesn't suit Tottenham. Like the second goal really demonstrated that, there was so much space for Semenyo when Paulina lost the ball.
No, I think we've lost you. I think we've lost your sound.
I thought that was me.
No, we'll try and bring you back in a minute. Right, we'll go to Simo. Simo, how you doing?
I'm all right, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, all right.
Come on, let's lift it up a bit. The second half against Man City, outstanding, wasn't it?
Well, I was going to say, I'm not even going to ask a question. Go for it. Go for whatever you want to talk about. Go for it.
Getting to know me, ain't you?
Well, no, you're more grumpy than all of us.
Well, I'm flipping heck, mate. I mean, at the minute, do you blame me?
No.
I mean, I pay stupid amount of money like you to go, and then we've been served up the dross. We've been served up, but no, second half. I mean, it was so nice to be in the stand, watching us have a go, seeing some good quality football, and just what a goal from Solanke. Just what a goal. I mean, I sit that end and I saw it perfectly and my jaw dropped. I was just outstanding. And it was brilliant. Really enjoyed that second half. It's much better having that in the second half than having a really good first half and then a crap second half, isn't it? So, I mean, you came away a lot happier than it might otherwise been. But saying all that, my position on Frank hasn't changed. I've been Frank out for months. I disagree with you earlier, fella. I don't think he's disingenuous or I don't think he lies. I think he just genuinely believes what he's saying. It's just what he's saying is wrong and what he believes is wrong.
Did you think, I'll rephrase, did you think he was the right man when he came in from Brentford in the summer?
No.
So you've never really...
we'd all like a Xabi Alonso or someone, world-class manager to come in that you can get behind. But in theory, we've done that twice, right? But the argument I would put forward is we didn't really back him. So what was the point? No, I felt he was a mid-table manager. And that really disappointed me. I think it was the club trying to do stuff on the cheap again of let's get in. Thomas Frankie did a great job at Brentford, which he did. Look at Brentford. But the highest he finished with, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying is 8th, which for Brentford, great. But when he came in, it's his mentality that really put me off. You guys finished 17th. Therefore, the implication being if I finish 16th, we've improved. Where actually your attitude should be more like Ange's was, although Ange clearly, has his issues. But Ange's response was, "I'm not aiming for 5th, mate," and it's that attitude I'm looking for. It's a winner attitude. It's I want to go out and kill the team opposite and win every game. And I just don't feel that desire to win from Thomas Frank. He just feels like a teacher. I'll shut you all up.
Yeah, Simo, is it a sorry state of affairs when we're talking about the only positive being one singular half of football being good?
100% right. 100% right. I mean, this is Tottenham Hotspur, right? The history we've got, all the players we've had, etc., etc. But this is a managed decline ever since Poch went, in my view. If you look at, we moved in 2019, and can we point to a really good season? What did we finish under Marino? Was it 5th? Whatever. So
I think that's slightly unfair to say one half of football. I know it's been poor this season, but it's been more than one half.
Well, give us the other half.
No, I mean we're talking specifically about the Man City game being the positive today.
Okay.
We're talking about a half of football being positive today to pay for the cracks of having a rubbish transfer window.
Fair enough.
No,
I thought you meant over the season.
No, but even over the season, what we're talking about in general are halves of a game or spells in a game. we're not saying we absolutely murdered that game. You know, other than Burnley at home, first game of the season, which it went reasonably well. You could argue Man City away 4-0. Can't really knock that, right? But generally speaking, it's been patchy all the way through the season, and you are talking about a half or a 20-minute spell. There's very few games where, if any, that you could say, yeah, we absolutely nailed that game. And someone said earlier about Frank's tactics. His B game seems to be better than his A game, which is, you know, or his A plan or his B plan, whichever way you want to say it. But whenever we start with a game plan, it doesn't seem to work out so great. And then he's forced into a change and it seems to get so much better. That worries me. I mean, surely, you know, your A game, your A plan should be better than your B plan, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Simo, last question for you. What rating out of 10 would you give the window?
3. And that's Connor on his own. If you look at net spend, well, there wasn't any. So, no, I disagree with your earlier callers as well, in that if the right players are not available, what's the point in just buying anyone for, you know, I would not buy, if I was a club, I wouldn't buy just anyone just to appease the fans because we bought someone and we spent 30 million, because I'd rather save the money and spend 60 million or something on you know, a quality player in the summer.
But surely that's a contradiction. You've just given us a 3 out of 10.
Well, I've given it a 3 out of 10, but that's because we couldn't find the player or the players weren't available. So what's the point? I mean, it doesn't mean it was a 6 out of 10 because we didn't spend the money. But I just feel like we're stringing Frank along. We're hoping to get to the summer. We'll bomb him out and then we'll get Poch or someone else in, and then start again. I mean, that's my only hope, right? But you're back to what did that banner say? The change for Tottenham banner, wasn't it? 24 years, 16 managers, 1 trophy, something like that. I mean, you're in that cycle again, and this is a whole new board, right? From Venkatesham, Peter Carrington, and all those guys, they're all new. I mean, I was thinking just the other day when Ben goes, God bless him, and love him to pieces, who's going to give him his Rolex watch and say thanks for your service over the last 11 seasons? Because none of them have been there more than a year themselves.
It'll probably be someone like Ledley King.
Oh, you got to hope, right?
Yeah. Well, it will. It will, yeah.
It's got because who else has been there more than 10 minutes?
Yeah, it'd be a club ambassador, someone like Ledley
But
King
here
or
we
Gary
are, we're
Mabbott,
on the bloody vibes roller coaster merry-go-round again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you're right, it'd be 7 managers, 7 permanent managers in 7 years at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Simo, thank you so much. We'll speak to you soon.
I'm only here to cheer you up, mate. See you later.
I don't think anyone can cheer me up tonight. Cheers.
Catch you later. Ta-da.
Oh, I knew this show would be tough tonight. Let's go to Luke. Luke, give us some sort of positivity, please.
Oh, some positivity. I think we've got a real player on our hands with Xavi Simons, regardless of who the manager is.
Yes.
He's going to be a generational talent. I think kids are going to be walking around with Xavi on their backs for a long time to come, I think. And he's adapted faster than I thought he was going to. I thought he might take the whole season, but he came back after Christmas and he must have eaten his turkey because he looked a bit stronger, a bit fitter. He's riding tackles. Do you know what I noticed? He's winning more fouls. He won quite a few fouls against City the other day. Yeah, for sure. So really, really pleased with the way he's coming along, and he's obviously been a really good purchase. I think what I was pleased with, what I thought was really weird in the game the other day, was that the first half was clearly the wrong setup. To put 5 at the back but have three in midfield and get completely overloaded and allow City to pass through it. It made it look like we were 2 men down. The way that they press and the way that they can move the ball so quickly through the middle and the physicality they have with Haaland and Semenyo it just looked like a huge mistake. But maybe that was down to the personnel. But to find a positive for you, the second half, the changes were perfect. They were bang on. Unfortunately, you can't do that every week, can you? You can't be making a mistake in the first half and fixing it in the second half, because as we've seen in some of the games, just doesn't give us enough time to come back. But it was pleasing to see that the players were up for it. They actually, I thought at half time that game's dusted. They're just not going to have the mentality to come out. So to see them come out and fight like that, and then when the crowd got up and they really seemed to get a lift from it, it made me think we're not dead. We're not dead yet. And that was very positive. So there's some positives for you, Chris.
Thank you.
Look, wouldn't you agree that this type of football that we're playing and seem to be playing, and it probably goes back to the Conte era as well, it's not sustainable though, is it? You can't keep going behind in game after game after game, and then coming back. So I suppose, and the second part of that is, did we do enough in the summer transfer window? I'll take you back to the summer. Did we do enough then to make us...
That's what you do to the guests, Craig. You bore them.
He's gone.
Right, we're going to go to Pete. Pete, evening. How are you?
Yeah, hi, Chris. Craig, Josh, I'm good. Oh, I say I'm good, but, well, we know I'm not good, but...
Pete, talk to us. How are you feeling right now as a Tottenham fan?
Chris, I sent you a message earlier to say that I nearly didn't come on because I'm incandescent with rage about any business that sees multi-billion-pound business like this, that sees the gaping holes and just does nothing about it. For me, I think what it shows is that they just pulled the rug from underneath Frank's feet. I think that's what they've done. They've turned around and said, like, I put a message to you earlier. One of the three things I think is happening: either they're prepping to sell the club, they're saving the money for Pochettino in the summer. I can't remember what the third thing was that I said, but I am more than a little bit pissed off, and apologies for the language. I think it's just negligent beyond belief to see the problems that we've got, and we're coming out of a window weaker than we were when we went into it. And in terms of positivity, the one thing I will say, thank Christ, dry January's finished, that we're on February the 2nd, so I can drown my sorrows tonight with it. Because if it had been a regular window finished on the 31st of January, I'd be struggling.
Hey,
Come on, you two.
What do you think we go from here in terms of, there were rumours to start the window, there's paper talk in terms of, Van de Ven potentially not being happy, clubs being interested in him. You'd expect that. We never know what's going to happen with Romero as well. But how do Spurs keep on to these top players with how things are going?
I'm not sure that we can, Josh, to be honest, because they, the same as me, and we looking around, looking at the squad, looking how decimated it is, and thinking, okay, well, what's the club going to do about it? And the simple answer is nothing. I think they've pulled the rug from underneath Frank's feet and said, we don't rate you, we don't want you, we're not prepared to put any money behind you, so we'll keep our powder dry. And they do the classic Tottenham thing of kicking it down the road. Next time. When's this next time ever going to turn up? And Simmer got it exactly right just now when he turned around and said that the plan B is very often better than the plan A. Now, there's got to be a reason for that. To my mind, I think that what's happening is that the players are looking at plan A. Yeah, okay, they're going for it for 45 minutes. We can't have this many second-hand revivals and for it not to be a thing. I just think they're binning off whatever tactics he sets them up with and saying, look, we know what we have to do, and they just go ahead and do it.
Pete, who's to blame mostly for the state we're in at the moment.
Craig, we had this question last week, and I apportioned it 40 for the board, 40 for the manager, and 20 for the players.
That's why I asked it again, because I want to see if you've changed those percentages.
Yeah, I have, mate. I'm thinking today it's 60 and it's 40. And after yesterday's display in the Aston Villa second half, the Sunderland first half, the Burnley resurgence, there's something there which says that these players still do care. They're doing something. So whilst they might not be completely exonerated, although my 60-40 split does say that they are exonerated, I think it's 60-40. I think 60% of the board are just not doing anything. They're seeing themselves going down the toilet, going down the tubes, doing nothing about it for whatever reason, be that because they don't want to trust Frank with the money and they're trying to keep the powder dry for the summer and go big in the summer. I'm just sick to death of next time. And I'm exactly the same as you. If they come out and put out some wishy-washy statement about, oh, we tried to get Yamal, we tried to get Semenyo, yeah, we tried to get Ronaldo, we tried to get Beckham, all these nonsense names that they are almost certainly going to throw around, I'm just not interested. They must think we are absolutely stupid if they think that we're going to be, and you've got a season ticket renewals coming up soon. What's going to convince me to part with £1,500 to go and watch that rubbish with him in charge? And I think the players are taking it on themselves now. It's happened too many times for it to be coincidental, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Simo said it earlier, when plan B works better than plan A. I think that's a player's plan. I think they're just not having it at all.
Pete, thanks for joining us. Before you do go, give us a quick prediction out of the 3 remaining Feb games. How many points are we picking up against Manchester United, Newcastle and Arsenal?
I think we'll pick up 3. Maybe a win somewhere. I don't know. I fancy us to beat Newcastle, to be fair. I think maybe we'll get nothing at Old Trafford and nothing against that lot. But I think we can realistically go and beat Newcastle.
Thanks, Pete.
Give us a return of 4 from 12.
Thanks, Pete. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Cheers, Josh. Craig.
Cheers.
See you later.
Right. We're gonna go back to see if we can get Noel back. Noel, how are you?
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, Chris, this is very gloomy. I'm actually very despondent. You're putting me in bad form, actually. Yes, I saw you earlier on today with a Manchester City fan. I don't know what, some guy had you on, and you were smiling. Your face was beaming.
Yep.
And I'm looking at you now, and Craig and Josh, give us a break, lads. Come on, cheer up a bit. Yesterday had to be a big positive.
Yep.
And there was a lot of positives in it. Somebody said earlier on, like Simmons has become a player. That is the big positivity. And Solanke, but the important thing is that we have no cover for Solanke. If anything happens to him, and he did hobble off yesterday, and I do agree, Josh really summed it up for me about the window. But there is positives there, and I think the second half yesterday, is something to build on. And if you're asking me the same question about the next 3 games, I'm gonna say 4 points: win 1, lose 1, draw 1, the Spurs way. And just liking to hear what you think of that.
I've learned I learned very quickly in life, Noel, to never ever tell people how to feel about football.
Yes, of course, I agree.
About lots of things, but Tottenham,
yeah, of course.
You can't ever tell people how to feel, because some people are happy with situations, some people are very disappointed with situations.
Yeah.
Some people are very calm, some people shout and swear and jump up and down.
Yeah.
I do feel disappointed by the January window, I must say.
I do too, Chris. I actually thought that you were going to be the cavalry, and I was tuning in at 6:30, and I thought you were going to come, riding up to the screen and say, hold the presses, we have signed somebody. And I was waiting all day for the news that, somebody was coming in the door, especially somebody at left back maybe, because I think if anything happens to you, Doggy, and he's had a bad injury record this season, you're going to be dependent on a kid if Spence isn't there. And somebody in the forward area as well. I thought 2 players coming in was the bare minimum, and I do agree with Josh. I'm staggered. Now, letting Johnson go, and not even bringing back some of the loan players. I think it's a bad situation, and I'm thinking maybe there's a couple of people. I think Craig said it earlier on. Maybe they don't trust Frank, to do the job, and he'll just give him to the end of the season, and that's your lot. Or Josh was saying it earlier on. Possibly they're selling up. There must be something behind it. But surely to God, there was somebody out there that would come in to help us. When I saw the lineup yesterday at the start of the game, the back 4 scared the life out of me. The back 3, it was the back 5, and it turned out to be an absolute disaster of a first half. And the space that Semenyo got to score the second goal. Obviously, the back 3 didn't work. There was too much space there. So at least they went back to basics. But now you have Romero was sick yesterday. Well, maybe that's not too long term. Danso was out. Van der Ven was out. Porro was out. Spence. That's a whole. And then you have obviously your midfield is totally decimated.
Yeah.
So the one positive for me, Chris, is that Popsar has come back. He's been out for a long time and he's had an up and down season. But there is a player there, and he's got plenty of enthusiasm, and he's a good runner, obviously. And there's a wee positivity there. He's like a new signing. But I do agree with you. The window is very deflating. I thought there would at least be 2 players in. And I want to say something to Craig there. Craig, I think we had to apologise to you after the last time I was on, after the Crystal Palace match. I think it was being a wee bit too positive, and I don't think we had an argument, but
no.
Well, can I jump in? And Craig, I hope you don't mind me reading this comment out. Dave Morgan says here, Craig, why are you always so negative towards Spurs? Right now, I have seen a real decline in your mood with Spurs over this season. You start off, of course, as a Spurs fan, we're all very positive, particularly after that Manchester City away game. And ever since then, as the weeks and certainly as the months and a lot of these podcasts have gone on and on and on, you've become more, I don't know what the word is, actually. I don't know whether it is grumpy or just really despondent with it all. Tell us how you feel.
Despondent is probably despondent is probably a right word. It's not, because I'm not always negative about Spurs, so that's incorrect. I think I'm just being honest, and I think a lot of people probably feel the same. And look, I could easily come on here and just try and be positive about everything. I'm generally a positive person in life. Thank you. I'm just saying it as I see it, really. And I've got more frustrated since probably
That's the word. Frustrated.
Yeah, since mid-October, and you see little signs, and then they let you down again. So I'm not going to change the way I feel, because I always come in here and I try and be honest about it. And I think if you want to talk, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning him, but you've only got to look at the likes of Ricky Norwood, probably one of the most positive, happy people I know. He's got more grey hair, and he's just
he won't like that.
But he had. I'm metaphorically speaking. I'm a fine one to talk about hair, by the way. But he's lost. He's at the same point as me, and I think it comes from partly that I never actually wanted Thomas Frank really at the club, but you get behind him, right? Because he's the manager. You haven't got a choice in it. We didn't pick him, so you try and get behind him. And I just haven't seen enough, Chris, and I'm just getting more and more wound up the longer he's in post, if I'm being brutally honest. And it's not good for you to think like that about your manager, but that's just the way it is. I've know my colours to the mast. And no, you would never upset me. I think it's safe to say we're all friends here. I've known you for a few years now. So, and your opinion is your opinion. My opinion is my opinion. If they don't agree on it, it's just that. It's just an opinion. That's the same with all of us on here. Don't get annoyed because we don't, not you, Noel, but anybody, don't get annoyed because we don't agree with your opinion. It's just an opinion.
No, and I just actually because the next match I actually felt exactly how you felt at that match. I think it was shortly after. I think it was the Nottingham Forest game, and that was and the West Ham. That was the two lowest points for me. I mean, losing against Nottingham Forest or West Ham, especially West Ham, because if we had won that match, you were virtually relegating them. I mean, the only good thing that came out of this weekend to me, the positive is that the results actually all went for us. And I think it's an awful indictment of being a Spurs fan for since 1967 that we're looking over our shoulder and looking to see how Leeds are doing, Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Burnley, But this weekend, it all went for us. And, I was watching the West Ham Chelsea match the other night, and like West Ham were 2-0 up at half time. So, looking at it, it was going to be 5 points between us. Oh my God, thank be to God. The first time in my life, Chris, I was cheering Chelsea on. I mean, I can't actually believe that happened. And, to keep that now, that 9 points between Spurs and West Ham, that's the way I feel. And, we have sunk to that, to watching other people's results. And that to me is a very disappointing aspect of the whole game. But by the time West Ham get to 29 points, we should be well over the 40 mark. So I don't think, I hate to say we can't get relegated, but, I heard somebody a bet somewhere today that 8-1 the Spurs would finish in the top half. I don't know. I'm not a betting man, but, if there is going to be an improvement, that's what we should be aiming at, because I don't think we're going to get into European places. And somebody was saying earlier on about, the players you're going to sign in the summer. Well, with no European football, how are you going to attract the really big names, for next year? That's going to be a real problem. But I think actually if we can see out this season, and, there is a spine of good young players, and, Josh hit on one earlier on, Vuskovic to come back. I don't think that you'll see Romero there next season. I genuinely don't. I think he's a problem. I think he thinks he's actually better than what he is. Fabulous footballer as he is, but his positional sense sometimes disappoints me. And at the same time, he has rescued us in games this season. Popping up. Van der Ven is another one. So I think this time next year, this whole Spurs team is going to be reshaped, and it'll bear very little resemblance to the squad or the team that you have at the moment. So there's a lot of issues there. And
now, let me say the window closed 56 minutes ago, and 13 minutes ago, Christian Romero has just written the following on Instagram. Great effort from all of my teammates yesterday. They were incredible. I wanted to be available to help them, even though I wasn't feeling well, especially since we only had 11 players available. Unbelievable, but true, and disgraceful. We'll keep showing up and taking responsibility to turn this around, working hard and staying together. That's all that's left, is to thank you for being there and always supporting us, the fans. Josh, let's get your reaction to those comments from Romero, because this is certainly not the first time that he has said words like this.
Yeah, well, look, I asked the question before in terms of what we need to do to keep these players at the club. And, in an ideal scenario, we would have Vuskovic, Van der Ven and Romero all still at the club next season. I don't believe that will be the case. And the other thing to add is where he said, since we only had 11 players available, unbelievable, but true and disgraceful. He's also put a face palm emoji off of that. He's clearly not happy. This is not the first time that he's called out the club for what it is. Of course, we're very unlucky with injuries, but something clearly is going on there that players are not going to be happy about. Whether that's a lack of investment in the squad, whether that's a dig at the board, whether it's a dig at the medical staff, for players constantly being injured, whether it's a dig at the manager, we never know. But look, I think he's pointing his anger in the right direction wherever it may be going, because certainly the fans are not to blame for what's going on. I do like the fact that as a captain, he is saying we'll keep showing up and taking responsibility to turn this around, working hard and staying together. That's what you should be saying as a captain. But that's pretty explosive from Romero. Just under an hour from the transfer window shutting, we all knew that we were short. And look, let's be under no illusions. These players follow what's going on social media. They're aware of how fans are feeling. They're aware of the sentiment. I don't believe for 1 second that these players are unaware of how fans are feeling. And, you know, people can say it's not your place to play politics. It's not your place to, you know, say these things. But I quite like the fact that we've got a captain that's coming out and saying it how it is, to be honest. I think that's quite refreshing to see. And I think it's only going to take brutal honesty to turn this around.
It's definitely it is refreshing to see, Josh, isn't it, that Romero, he'll probably get in the crap over that, to be honest with you. But it's really good to see one of the players coming out and saying things like that, because he's not really cryptic at all. Do you know what I mean? And he's done it before.
He has the right to do it as well. Let's not forget, if anyone in this squad has the right to do it, not just because he won the Europa League at Spurs, but he's won the Copa America in the World Cup as well. This is the one person at our football club who has the right to call these people out, because he's the only one that's been there and won everything there is to win. I think all he's missing now is a Champions League and you know, maybe a league title as well. And he'll have as good a career as you can get. So, you know, I think as far as is it his place, I love the fact that the captain's speaking out on this, being brutally honest. And I think he's well placed to do it. As I said before, I repeat the same exact point. Only brutal honesty will help get us out of this mess and turn this ship around. And this is why I'm so infuriated with, you know, what Thomas Frank's come out to say, what Vinay Venkatesham's come out to say, what Daniel Levy came out to say, what the board constantly come out and say when it's all lies. So we don't know for sure where he's aiming that criticism at, but I think it's very clear to see he's not happy.
Yeah, I think we do, Josh. And interestingly, a number of his teammates have liked this comment already in the first 15 minutes. Solanke, Papa Matassar, Jed Spence, and new signing, Conor Gallagher. Noel, anything else to add?
No, Chris, yeah, what do you think about the rest of the season? Do you think they can go any further in the Champions League?
It depends on the injury front, I suppose, no. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I just think that any Champions League game from now
on
is going to be very, very tough.
Yeah,
so
me too.
It depends on the injury front.
Well, at least we didn't. I was dreading the scenario that we would go into the playoffs, you know, and have another 2 games to contend with. I think that was the positive of finishing 8th, you know.
Yeah.
I still think somebody said, you know, I don't think we'll finish any higher than 12th or 11th possibly, but I think there's going to be a massive clear out in the summer, and I think actually somebody said it is right. I think they are planning for life with a new manager. They're not going to do it now. There's hardly any point now at this stage. You know, if we finish today, you know, with absolutely no signings, I don't see. I think that Frank has been the saying now is thrown under the bus, and I think, you know, that they're not going to back him. So he'll see out the season. He'll be, you know, quietly let go, and the new manager is going to have a hell of a job, because there's going to be a hell of a lot of comings and goings. But
no, thanks so much for joining us as always. And we'll speak to you very soon.
Thanks. Thank you, Chris and Craig and Josh. Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care now.
Okay.
Right, we're now going to go to Nicholas. Nicholas, evening. How are you?
Just lost it.
Hello. Okay, we'll go to Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Hello, guys. Hope you're well. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah.
Matt, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
Pretty flat, mate. Pretty deflated. Pretty sort of fed up, I suppose. But like Craig is. Don't feel really connected to the club at the moment. Feel like we're being taken for a bit of a ride and taken for mugs, and I think a lot of fans are waking up to it and realising that there's really big problems at the club. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I watched the sort of game yesterday. I'm watching the first half, and my girlfriend even comes up to me and goes, "This is the quietest you've ever been watching Spurs. There's nothing in you. there's no reactions. I'm not even celebrating when we're scoring. I just think it just feels flat and sort of deflated with the whole situation, to be honest.
That's interesting you say that about not celebrating when we score. Is that more because like you think we're going to concede anyway? Or is it just you're just so done with the team now? You just like lost all that, lost your love for the team in a way.
Yeah, I'd say it is definitely starting to lose the love. There's not many players I particularly really like. Everyone says they've got their favourites. Used to have Son, used to have Kane, used to have, your Dembélés, your Modric's. Now I'm like, probably I like Xavi Simons. I like Romero. I love Mickey van der Ven. But I just feel so disconnected, Craig, to be perfectly honest, and just don't know what direction we're going in. Severely worries me. With the amount of injuries we've got, we're going to keep falling down that table with the games we've got coming up. I want to stay positive, but I thought maybe today, just give us a pick me up, just get some bodies in, try and help the manager out. I'm sort of with you, Craig. I'm not Frank's biggest sort of fan. I have seen some little green shoots the last couple of weeks of a bit of that sort of positive play, but I definitely think having Solanke back has helped because he can press from the front. He leads the press well, and obviously he can hold the ball up, unlike sort of Richarlison. And he can bring others into play. But yeah, I just think I'm just a bit beat, to be honest, mate. I'm just a bit. I don't want to keep letting it ruin my week and let it get to me. I just feel like I'm at that stage where I'm trying to do other things other than just think about Spurs all the time, to be perfectly honest.
I think a lot of people feel the same. I mean, we all watch football. I've said it on here before. We all watch football because you might use it as an escape away from life's dramas. You watch it and get involved for 90 odd minutes just to feel happy, I suppose. You wouldn't do something if you didn't feel happy about it, would you? And I think Spurs is tipping a lot of us over the edge this season because I think I expected us quite wrongly to do a fair bit of business in January, and I think it probably comes down to that. It's kind of the final nail in the coffin, isn't it?
Well, I think when you get all the big words and phrases, we want to win trophies, we want to compete at the highest level. Well, maybe if you're going to say that, you've got to back it up. I'd rather if you didn't say that and just tell us the truth and say, look, I at this stage, it's a mess. You can't. I mean, the fact you sort of have two directors of football now. One's obviously gone. The leadership level there, and you almost need someone to be brave and go, no, we're not going to have two directors of football. Only one of you can have the job, and you've got to have that leadership and strong leadership at the top, and you need that in anything, whether it's a business, whether it's a team in general. There's got to be someone who's the main leader who takes the ball by the horns. And unfortunately, I just think where you had one man in Levy who did maybe everything, now you've got all these other sort of people taking control, and other people need, there's rumours that this, is it Vivian's, is it son-in-law, is it Nick? I can't remember his surname, but he gets the say and he makes the decisions on if you can sign a player. Well, no other club does this. They'd leave it, they'd go, right, there's your transfer budget. This is what you've got. These are our wages. We're going to leave it up to the sporting director to deal with, and don't get involved. If you set what you want them to spend and what they can't spend within your jurisdictions, then it's not complicated. It doesn't overcomplicate anything, and you don't have to keep going back and forth to everyone to just get some deals over the line. I mean, also, I just think the club sometimes need to read the room a bit more. I mean, I don't need to hear that we've signed a kid from Hearts who can't even get in the Hearts team and play. And again, it's another one for the future, Craig. It's not what we need, really, to be perfectly honest.
How many years off do you think Spurs actually are from being back as a top four challenger, regular top four challenger, and as a team that can compete at the top end of the table? Oh, he's gone.
We've lost Matt. Okay, let's bring on.
Greg, how far do you think?
Let's ask Dustin the same. We just brought in a good friend from Singapore, Dustin. How are you, Dustin?
Oh, how are you?
Not bad. Josh, do you want to pose Dustin your question?
Dustin, with the transfer window, and yet again, I think most people feeling like we've been left completely short. How far away do you think Spurs actually are from genuinely competing for the top 4 or at the top end of the Premier League table again?
Our squad balance is completely shot to pieces, and a good example for this would be that if we had a properly balanced squad, we would have a senior player as a first team player, a player that's maybe 4 years younger or something like that as a deputy. And I think we had a good example of this when we had Walker and Trippier, where if you swap Walker out, Trippier's maybe not the same level, but maybe he's got a better cross, less recovery speed, whatever. But all good teams have the idea of a squad where the squad player is good enough to replace the fresh player. You get rotation, you have less injuries. But if you look at our team now, the balance is completely off. We have 3 left winger striker hybrids that are fighting for the same position, and they're all the same age profile. So you have like Tel, you have Muani. Muani's a bit older, but they're all fighting for minutes on the same position. And then we signed Conor Gallagher, good signing. He brings leadership to the team, all those intangibles. But we have 4 players in that position, right? So we have Sar, Udogi, we have Sar, Gray, Bentancur when he's fit, and Paulinia, who's more of a solid DM rather than box to box. But essentially, you have 4 players of a similar profile that don't have the progressive passing. So then we overload the team with not just the same player in the same position, but the same age profile, and then you don't have a proper deputy apprentice system going where you have a transition where, okay, this player is getting older, but the deputy's been trained up. They already know how they play. In fact, they train with each other. You can sell the older player, and then the younger player gets promoted. We don't have any semblance of that at all.
Can I just follow up with that, Dustin? One area where I think we did see a positive, and I'm trying to say that I think the first positive that I'll come out with tonight was Xavi Simons yesterday.
Yep.
And that is someone that can progress the ball and increasingly is looking more confident. I think in the Champions League, he's a step above, but in the Premier League, it's taking his time. What did you make of his performance yesterday? And I believe you've also you've got some slides on Xavi Simons.
Yes, I do. I always do.
That's why I like Dustin. You don't actually have to ask questions. Dustin just comes on and goes. We let him go, so it's all good.
Can someone put the slides up? So
which one do you want, mate? Which one?
The one that's like mostly black. I think it's the one that's named Tot-MCI.
There we go.
Yeah. So the thing I noticed about Xavi Simons was that, and this is one of the things when we asked the question whether is it Thomas Frank changing the game plan and therefore we give him credit for the second half performance being better, or do we call it the players? And there are aspects where you can say it's Frank, and there are aspects where you can say it's the players. Whenever it's the players like raising their intensity, then I attribute it to the players rather than Frank. If it's playing in a different way, which is not Frank ball, which is basically if he's not doing vertical balls down the flanks, spamming crosses from Porro, long throws or set pieces to Romero to hit back, then that's why I consider Frank ball. If we're playing better because we're doing something different, I classify that as the players, because Frank doesn't do that often enough for me to say that that's his pattern of play. So for the second half, what I saw from Xavi was great intensity. We think of him as a creative midfielder, a bit of a luxury player. But if you look at this stat where his duels, he's got second most duels in the game after Rodri, right? And if you look at what he does, he's got 4 successful dribbles, even winning aerial duels, 9 ground duels won. And then if you go to like the passing, right? The accurate passing, the number of touches, and if you go to successful dribbles as well. So like he basically turned on a great second half performance. But I think that one of the things that where we see a disconnect, which is why can't we play 2 consecutive good halves of football? It's primarily because I think that Thomas Frank's system, being reactive, it means that there's so much. When you're reactive, right, that means that every time you play a game, you're reacting to the team. So if we play 19 teams, you have like 19 game plans, and if you have a different home game plan for home and away, you have 38 different game plans that players need to absorb before the game. And if something goes wrong or the opposing team makes an adaptation, then because Frank's given you the script, but now he needs to adapt, he can't communicate that from the touchline. So you need to wait until halftime for him to download his instructions. And you've seen Van der Ven over there like holding an essay, trying to read it in the middle of a top flight game. So I think that when you're a reactive coach, what happens is that because you're always reacting to teams, you're not giving players the tools to adapt as quickly. Whereas if you're a coach that sets your team up to play like a protagonist, which is we control possession, we don't care what they do, we adapt to them when they have possession, but we aim to have more possession because then they adapt to us, not we adapt to them. And when we play as a protagonist, what happens as a result is we have more of the ball, and we've seen good possession teams, right? Why are the defensive stats good? If they have more of the ball, the other team has less possession, less ability to hurt them. There are ways that reactive teams can hurt them, and that's one of Frank's goals, which is to try to win the ball from a team when they're doing build-up, because he would rather create a chance by winning a ball when the team is out of position rather than try to break down the team that's already set up in their defensive block. So I think that that's kind of like the summary of the way he coaches and the way I feel the weaknesses of an adaptive coach versus a possession dominant kind of protagonist coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other slides you want me to show here, Dustin?
I have, if you go to player stats, there's another one there, which is like players we could have looked at signing.
This was going to lead to what I was going to ask you, Dustin, because I was going to say, obviously linked with lots of players, but I wanted to know who you would have targeted or who you would now target in the summer to address those issues with squad balance, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we're gonna get players in the summer, because I think one of the tricky things about the winter window is that it's very hard to get players in the winter window because if they're any good, they'll be playing for their club. Their club wouldn't want them to leave in the middle of a season. I know we were going for Akliush, if we could have gotten that over the line, because it seems that Monaco signed his replacement, but we didn't seem to get that over the line. I have question marks whether he would have moved because he would be cup tied for the Champions League. So it's a hard pitch to tell him, forget about playing the knockout round of the Champions League. Come and fight relegation with us. I don't see that as being a very attractive proposition. So I think Akliush would have been a reasonably realistic target this winter that we were linked to, but didn't get over the line. And if we get to the summer, I mean, these are players that we could target, but I think part of the problem is when it gets to summer, we also have a lot more competition. So there's Tyler Morton, who was with Liverpool, who's now at Lyon. There's Kema Andreas, there's Angelo Stiller, there's Nicola Ravella, Curtis Jones, Lucien Agome, and Adam Wharton. And kind of like primarily what we're looking at is getting more progressive passes and people that are good at key passes. Ideally, a higher percentage of forward passes. So I think one of the things we look at is like pass completion is normally considered to be a good thing for attacking midfielder, but I think that depending on the profile you're looking for, and if we're looking for a progressive passer, we might want a higher percentage of progressive passes forward. And then, pass completion, it's okay if it's not super high, because like Bruno Fernandes doesn't have good pass completion because he's trying hero balls all the time. And I think that we need a mix of that. We need someone that's more daring with the ball, trying to create something. And that comes sometimes at the cost of possession, or rather passes completed. But, if he creates more danger and has more key passes, that's a good trade-off to have.
Absolutely. What next one do you want me to put up, Dustin?
I can go to a different slide. And this is kind of, let me see. I'll share this tab and sit. And basically these were like the list of, players that are do well in certain stats that we could have gone with for progressive passing. And obviously there are ones up there that are not realistic, right? But we scroll down, we can start looking at this El Canus, for example. Then we have Elliot Anderson, Angelo Stillers there. So we have ways of kind of narrowing down what we think the right kind of profile we need are. But and some of these are realistic. They may not be from the sexiest leagues, but realistically in the winter window, you're not necessarily going to be signing top shelf. But there were profiles that were available.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you look at that, isn't it? Actually, Josh, you might know what Angelo Stiller from Stuttgart. Do you know much about that player? I've heard his name mentioned. You're on mute, Josh.
There you go. Stiller is a really exciting player. He's just sort of getting into that time of his career where he's starting to really explode. Manchester United has been really heavily linked with him in the Germany setup as well. He's had quite an interesting personal story as well. He was born with a cleft palate and had surgery for that, and has been sort of mocked by a lot of fans and by people for that. And he sort of defied the odds, really. Shut them all
He's
up.
a fighter.
On the pitch, exactly. He's a brilliant footballer, and Stuttgart is no slouch in the Bundesliga. This is a team that is consistently pushing, the top teams in Germany now, and they've consistently done that for a few years now. Of course, Voltemade coming from them as well, and Girassi, who's at Dortmund, he came from Stuttgart as well. So Stuttgart is a team that is producing some very, very good players and recruiting really well. Stiller is a player that I think, again, as I mentioned, Man United interested, is a player that a lot of clubs will be looking at in the summer for sure, especially if he goes to the World Cup, has a good World Cup. So Stiller is absolutely one that I think Spurs, if he is going to be available, he will cost, fair whack, but Spurs should be definitely in that conversation. I thought what was really interesting with the previous slide that you showed, Dustin, was how well Curtis Jones performs in those, in terms of the progressive passes and the forward passes. If you look at that graph there, Curtis Jones there, it's clearly, the top player for progressive and forward passes. And of course, is a player with a lot of Premier League experience and a player that we've been linked with this window. Inter, we're interested too. It looks like he's staying put, but a player that could well be available in the summer. And the other one that really interests me is Morton, of course, also from the Liverpool conveyor belt, another Liverpool Academy product who's doing very well at Lyon. Lyon having a much better year. And so it's interesting to see that, with Stiller, Morton and Jones, these are three really interesting options that I think would all improve our midfield, but wouldn't cost necessarily the bomb that Adam Wharton would cost. Now, Adam Wharton, we know, is going to probably leave Crystal Palace in the summer. You would expect that to be the case, given the sort of progression of top players at Palace that have left the club. Expecting Mateta, will go in the summer now. And it will be probably the same with Wharton. And I suspect Manchester City, Liverpool, Man United, all the top clubs will be after Wharton. So actually, maybe Spurs can get more bang for their buck by going for a player like Morton or Curtis Jones or even Stiller. But I think, from a personal point of view, I always like to see English players at Spurs. I think it's been a long time since we've had a good cohort of England internationals at the club, and Curtis Jones will certainly do that. I don't think Morton is going to make the squad this time. I think it's just he would need to do it in the Premier League. But Morton is certainly a player who could be in the conversation for future tournaments. So I think it's really interesting that those players have been mentioned, because all three that I've kind of spoken about, and Ravella's a good player too. I do like Ravella, but I'm always a little bit more skeptical about players coming from Italy, generally speaking, because the intensity of the Premier League is so much faster, and the Bundesliga is more of a comparable in terms of the speed of it. And even then, the Bundesliga is not as quick as the Premier League, as we've seen from how long it's taken Xavi Simons to sort of get up to gear. So I think those would be the three of that list, because let's be realistic, Adam Wharton is not going to join Tottenham Hotspur, especially if we don't finish in a Champions League place, when he could go elsewhere and probably start for a Champions League club.
Yeah, I think a big part of it as well is that like we should be going for a homegrown player, because our squad building has been so bad that we don't have enough slots that are non-homegrown, non-club trained. So part of the thing is like you also have a player that's more habituated to the pace of the league, because you will have to accommodate players coming into the league. And that's why when I watch videos of them as well, it's like I'm looking not just at their performances against who they're playing against, but I'm also looking at that, how much time do they take on the ball, because you're not going to get that time in the Prem. And that's why when I was watching, in fact, when we signed Kolo Muani, I was looking at his videos and thinking he is too reliant on beating his man on the dribble. And there's no way he gets to dribble like that in the Premier League. He's going to get fouled within like the first 2 touches. So I would say that when we signed Kolo Muani, I was like, I hope he does well. But having looked at his style of play and how he was playing in the leagues he was playing in, I was thinking that I wasn't sure that it would transfer.
Yeah. What are these other slides? There's a couple more, Dustin. Which one do you want me to put up next?
Let me see. There's the other one. The other one's about Frank. Oh, there's one about Frank's financial efficiency. I mean, if we're wondering why we're going so much with Frank, right? One of the big reasons is at the point that he was at Brentford, he scored the most points relative to the wage bill. So if we're wondering of all the managers, why do we choose Frank? I'm pretty sure there's some boffin there that's going, which manages the best bang for buck, and then they were like, yes, this guy.
That makes total sense, doesn't it? From a Spurs, that is such a Spurs thing.
Oh, it really is. It really is.
Isn't it, Josh? Isn't it? That is.
Well, but the difference is, right, and you can see Hurtler is the second coach there, and De Zerbi making up. You know, we've got 2 of the top 4 being Brighton. We know what a brilliant establishment Brighton and Brentford both have in terms of their recruitment, in terms of their data. Brentford was very much a Moneyball club under Benham and Tony Bloom at Brighton. We know he's one of the best operators in football. And, you know, it's interesting to see that. But Spurs clearly don't have that same setup. We don't have enough true football people in those positions. And losing Paratici, who in my mind was the obvious footballing guy, you know, is a massive blow to us. And of course, that stat makes sense. The other thing that is just worth mentioning on kind of bang for buck and on sort of players we were talking about, I was obviously speaking a little bit about Stiller, but the manager at Stuttgart, Sebastian Hoeneß, is a really, really exciting coach, 43 years old, and one that I think is, if Spurs are going to part ways with Frank in the summer, if not sooner, Hoeneß is someone that I think should absolutely be in the conversation amongst your sort of Pochettinos and other managers. And he's one I would be very surprised if Hoeneß is still at Stuttgart next season with the job that he's doing.
Yeah. And there's one more set of slides here, Dustin.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put them up?
Yeah, put up the one with the flag. So this one is kind of covering like the disconnect we feel when we feel gaslit during a Frank post-match interview. So this covers a little bit of that. If you can put the one up that has my name on the flag.
This one?
Yeah, this one. So what I did was I took every single post-match interview and put it into a chat, into an LLM. And then I took sentiment analysis, what he says, dominated, good performance, stuff like that. And then I reflected it against the real result. And then I got the AI to go, when does Frank misrepresent the truth? When is he truthful and all that kind of stuff? Just to see kind of like, why do we sometimes feel gaslit when we have when he has an interview and like, what do you mean good performance? Or what do you mean good process or whatever, right? So in wins and narrow losses, what he does highlight is he highlights like positive metrics. So for example, our expected points, we scored better than expected points, our field tilt, our defensive stats. So he uses data as a basis for we deserve better, as in our underlying data showed that we performed better than the result that we got. And then there's selective data in ugly wins, where there's poor underlying data. He'll focus on the result or like the player's resilience, or or defense, and then he'll omit data that shows that we underperformed. When he's really accurate is when we have very good or very bad performances, because the very bad performances, there's almost no getting away with it. So he's very upfront about, and he's most honest when we have the bad performances. So that's like the loss against Arsenal, that's the loss against Fulham and stuff like that. You can see he's like very honest in these specific games. But then there's certain games where he will either omit data or use it selectively to highlight, we had good performance here, but then he won't tell you where we didn't do as well in. So he's weaponized data to an extent to kind of paint picture being better than it is sometimes.
That is really interesting, actually. That is really interesting.
That's what my next video is going to be about, which is basically covering kind of like not just the press conferences and everything, but like covering the basics of data. Why do people use it? How Frank interprets data, and kind of like why do we cross so much, for example, how he regards like long shots as poor XG, so we don't worry about it, we don't shoot it, we don't block it, and all those kinds of things.
And yet we concede so many from long shots this season. Craig, can I ask you just off the back?
This is my slide for it.
Oh my God, here we go. I mean, before we discuss this, Craig, has your opinion on Thomas Frank changed at all, for better or worse, since seeing that last slide?
Well, no, probably not. I have to say, there's two ways of interpreting the data, isn't there? He can be honest. He's more honest when we're crap, basically, because it's out there, isn't it? Everybody knows, so you can't really. It's pointless coming out after we've lost 4-0 saying that we played well. Nobody's going to believe it. So, no, Josh, anyway. Go on then, Dustin. What we got here?
I've done this slide before, but essentially, Frank in his like masterclass says that long shots are low XG, so that's the reason we don't take it. And we have players that when they take long shots, they've been dropped, right? I think Tel took a few long shots in the game, then he wasn't in the first 11 for the next few games. So Frank likes to pressure the box, and he would prefer to pack defenders into the box rather than for them to rush out and block a shot, because he thinks that by doing that you're leaving a hole in the defense that can be exploited. But if teams know that that's our slant, then they're like, okay, Semenyo, go and have a shot. So we've had multiple games where we've conceded 2 goals against teams that shoot from long. So 2 against Forest, 2 against Fulham, 2 against Villa, 1 against Brighton. There were 3 against PSG, but I'm discounting 1 that was at the same distance. So you see 2 just inside the box. 1 was Vitinha sidestepping someone and shooting. That one I treat it as, not pressuring a long shot. The other was Fabian Ruiz. I don't consider that because we lost the ball in build-up and he scored from there. So I'm giving Thomas Frank a discount. You didn't concede 3 long shots. You only conceded 2.
Yeah. There's so much good stuff here, Dustin. I'm really looking forward to your next video on all this stuff, because it's fascinating. I absolutely love it. Dustin, we could talk to you all night. Thanks so much for coming on and bringing your slides as normal. Where can people find you if they want to give you a follow and learn a bit more about this fascinating stuff?
Okay, you can follow me. I'm really bad at spelling my username, so you can follow me over here on X. And then I've also got the video series that we do on Chris Cowland's channel, which is over. Let me get my finger in place. Yeah, here. That link over here, which is talking Tottenham tactics. It's a playlist in Chris Cowland's channel as well. I've already got, I think, 5 episodes there. There's a half-hour long episode about both sides of the Frank in and out debate, and then the next one will be kind of data, his use of data, and the part about where he uses it selectively in press conferences, but also a more a wider overview on like why is everyone talking about data, and then what can you use it for and what are its limitations.
Brilliant. Well, Dustin, thanks so much for coming back, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, Dustin.
Thanks. Absolutely brilliant, that was. Right, we'll come back to you, Matt, and John will come to you as the last guest. Matt, we lost you right in full flow. I think you was answering Josh's question. I can't even remember what the question was. Josh, can you remember?
I literally couldn't hear Josh. All I saw was his lips just moving. I was like, I don't know what's going on there.
Well, the question was quite simple. How far off do you think Spurs actually are from competing with the top four and becoming a regular top four side, or competing at the top of the Premier League? How many years do you think this rebuild will take? If we have to, we may end up having to start from square one again.
Yeah. Well, let's see how long it's taken Arsenal. What's it taken them? 6-7 years, is it, to get to this sort of near enough to... I mean, who knows with Spurs? I think what would be key for me, Josh, is we need to bring in some football people. We need a director of football, not Lange. Someone else needs to come in with a lot more experience, and they need to lay out a plan to the fans, like a short-term, long-term, or medium-term goals, and just tell us for once what the actual plan is. And who knows, with the board that they're now, whether they want to sell, maybe that's why they're not spending. I think key for me is you need to set out a plan like Arsenal did. They said they were going to go for the league within 5 to 6 years. They stuck with their manager. They backed him. They cleared out all the players they didn't want, and then they started acting serious. It's a tough question, really. I mean, there's no reason to say 5 or 6 years. If you do it properly, we could be, back up there. But we've got a lot of work to do, mate. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, next year could be even harder in terms of sort of attracting players to the club. I mean, you can pay players obviously a lot more than other clubs, but unfortunately, if we go for a player that Man City or Liverpool or someone like that wants, which we seem to keep fishing in the same water, unfortunately there's a pyramid in football at this moment in time, and most players will probably choose those sort of projects because they're guaranteed to probably more than likely win a trophy, whether it's the Premier League, Champions League, or FA Cups, things like that. I just think we've got to get a bit smarter with our business. I think players like Paulinho are really good sort of signings, and they show that they've got that winning mentality, but will also, do what us fans want, which is to fight for, the club we love and the badge, and put in a lot of effort. I mean, it's such a hard sort of question to answer, to be honest, Josh. I mean, I'd probably guess 5 to 6 years, but that's if we get recruitment right and if there's a proper plan in place. And unfortunately, until there is a proper plan in place, until they've decided what they really want, it's like a merry-go-round, mate. I think you just keep going round and round in circles, and I'm sure it's just driving us all crazy. I'm sick of it. I'm sure you guys are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's finding that happy medium, isn't it? And we're nowhere near that yet. Matt, thanks for coming back. I hope to have you on again soon. And let's hope better times are coming soon. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys. Have a great show.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, we're going to go to our last guest of the evening, all the way to Canada to speak to our good friend, John Murray. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm as happier after yesterday than I was last time we spoke. Still lack confidence, and I'm not sure where we're going to end up. Is that fair enough?
Well, you've seen a lot, John, haven't you? You go back further than me, and
I go back to the dark ages. I actually said today, we've signed a guy from Hearts of Melodian. The last guy I remember signing from Hearts of Melodian was Dave Mackay, but
guy, if it turns out half the player Dave Mackay was,
it turns out half the player Dave Mackay was, then we should be pleased. But I mean, yesterday I had to go out at half time yesterday. I had a little run I had to go and do, And I came back expecting us to be 4 or 5 down. And when I came back and found it was 2-2, I was over the moon. I thought, oh, well, great. 2-2 against Man City. We've done something. And that's one of the points I said we get 2 points from these 4 games. That's one of them, I suppose. I'm hoping we may do better against Newcastle. What happens on Saturday at Manchester? Is it Manchester we go to Saturday?
Yeah, Man U, yeah.
Man U. I have my doubts and my tribulations over the matter. Hello,
Yeah.
Chris is back, and Josh is back. So we will, the transfer window is an utter disappointment. Utter disappointment. Let's say the only bright spot was Conor Gallagher, and the other 2 boys. Well, the others are 2 youngsters who are younger than my granddaughter. So that says something, doesn't it?
John, can I ask you? Obviously, let's cast our mind back to May. The last time I think we all felt pure joy from supporting our club when we won the Europa League in Bilbao. Possibly the worst European final you'll ever get, contested by the 2 worst teams you'll ever get. But that being said, we don't care. We won the Europa League.
Yes, I can stick it up my Man United friend's nose. And
well, Ruben Amorim was sacked with Man United in 5th place, and Michael Carrick is 3 from 3 at the moment. The United strand, that United fan might actually get to cut his hair after all of these months. But United currently sit in 4th, and they're 12 points above Spurs.
Right.
What do you put that down to? The fact that these were 2 teams in a really, really terrible position come the end of last season, and it all rode on that Europa League final. We got the better of them, and yet the 2 clubs have gone in polar opposite directions. What do you put that down to?
I think a poor choice of a manager. We made a poor choice. I know they are trying to back Thomas Frank, but I think he was a poor choice for a big club. I think he's out of his depth.
Your phone charger, very important. But
What was that? What was that?
I'm trying to keep up to the date with the latest news to try and bring everyone the latest news.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go and do something exciting. I've got some tiling to do. So I'm going in the hospital. But I think the answer, Josh, is because we put too much eggs in Thomas Frank's basket. We expected too much of him, and we didn't back him with the resources he needs to turn a very average side that struggled last year into anything of any consequence. And here we are.
Well, can you just imagine, right? Marcus Rashford, who's having a brilliant time out in Barcelona. He's still a Manchester United player. Man United could bring him back. With Amorim now gone, there's still a prospect of Rashford going back to United next season and adding to what they've been building. They spent significant money on Mateus Cunha. They spent significant money on Brian Mbeumo. They spent significant money on Benjamin Sesko, who seems to be finding some goal-scoring form finally. And they've also brought in a competent goalkeeper in Senna Lamens as well. So look at what United have gone and done compared to what Spurs have done. And do you think that Spurs, the board still struggles with a small club mentality, despite the stadium, the training ground, the fact that we are one of the most profitable sports businesses in the world? But, when we were all remember the Pochettino comment, it's like having a mansion, you've got to put the furniture in, words to that effect.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Josh, and there's no question about it. But are we not in a situation where we talk about this big club mentality and small club leadership, and we're a very rich organisation? But are we a very rich organisation because we're not spending money on the players?
And this is what I was going to come back to, because we hear an awful lot about Thomas Frank, and people say, I'm not a fan of Thomas Frank particularly. I've not been impressed, but we seem to. I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like so many fans are putting their energy into the wrong place. We're hearing people calling out just the manager. It's the manager that we're this bad, but the elephant in the room is the owners.
Sure. I mean, that's a consistent thing, isn't it?
So at what point
since Enid came in, that has been a consistent situation. We've gone from Glenn Hoddle, who was going to be the great saviour, who wasn't, and we've gone from the next one to the next one to the next one to the next one to the next one. And the only consistent times we ever had was with Harry for 3 years. Then they got rid of him, for crying out loud, and brought in Pochettino, which is probably a good move at the time. And how long we had for Poch? 6 years?
Yeah, we had a decent spell with Andre Villas-Boas as well.
Villas-Boas, all right, okay.
Solid.
Yeah, but, I mean, I was sitting talking to a friend of mine, and we were discussing, the success of Wenger. Wenger was at Arsenal, I don't know, 16, 17, 18 years, I forget now, a long time. And in that time, we went through half a dozen more managers. Half of them, I can't even remember their names. Now, if we got that consistency or inconsistency, we're not going to build a club, because we're forever rebuilding with a new guy. You bring in a new manager in any situation, whether it's a restaurant or a technology group or anything around the world, they always want to put their own stamp on it. And every time that happens, somebody goes in, somebody comes in, and somebody goes out the door, and you're in this continual churn. And we're all complaining we haven't signed anybody, and we're all disappointed. But we got no consistency, no stability, etc. We get another manager in over the summer, be it Poch or be it anybody. How many of those players are going to go out the door? If we don't get another manager in, or we don't show any ambition, how many of those players are going to go out the door? I would think Van der Ven will be as fast as he can go. Romero will be on his tails. And we may send the lad back to Bayern Munich. I think he's a great lad, but I can't remember his name. Sorry.
Palhinha.
Would he want to stay? Would any of them want to stay, not knowing who's coming in, what the hell's going to happen? And that's the problem. There's no consistency. There's nothing built in the rock of the club. It's they make the profit, the turnover of profit. They sell the season tickets. They get the match day revenue, make themselves the richest club in the world, as it were, or going that way. But the fans are not getting what they want in return. And yet they know full well if our friend who said he was worrying about spending his £1,500 to get his season ticket again, if he doesn't renew, they know they've got 4 or 5 people sitting on a waiting list waiting. So that's the other problem, right? If people don't renew their season tickets, and you start seeing empty seats, and they start losing match day revenue, then they may pick up to that situation. But as long as they stay in the Premier League, this ball is not going to work itself to any degree to make it a great club again. As long as they make the profit, that's all that's going to matter.
John,
tell us when they like.
John, let's end on a positive. Talk to me about your favourite ever Spurs game, and your favourite ever Spurs goal.
Favourite ever Spurs goal. Oh, I think. Oh God, so many, Chris, and so many, and I missed so many as well because I was away. But I mean, obviously, I go back to the favourite game was 13-2 against Crewe in the mud on a FA Cup replay. I mean, that was pure entertainment. And the greatest goal, I guess, we go back to the goal in the 1982 FA Cup final replay. The Argentinian lad whose name I have forgotten, who wasn't ideal, is it Ricky Villa? Ricky Villa's goal in that 1981 final against Man City, the replay. Go look at that. Cheer yourselves up. If only we could emulate that sort of situation again.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Rich says here, Gaza free kick or Mora third against Ajax. That was a wonderful moment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lee says Ginola away, Barnsley. That was a good moment. That yeah. Steve says
And-
Gaza free kick.
Gazza's free kick against the Gooners. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
That was a wonderful game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Reece
moments,
says-
great memories.
Reece says here Gareth Bale against Inter. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Jamie says 3-1 Inter.
That was a great night. That was a wonderful night, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw
John-
one in there. I thought Vertonghen against Dortmund at Wembley. That was a ridiculous moment. We played so well that game.
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah,
Paul
we've all
says-
got great memories, and
yeah.
this organisation is not emulating those, are they? That's the problem.
Paul says Klinsmann's volley at the start of the 94-95 campaign. Only one Hotspur, Delhi against Crystal Palace. That was a good goal. That Coke can Hoddle's solo against Oxford. You see, we can have a bit of positive vibe.
Of course, we've
Can't
got
we?
to have positivity.
We can end it on a positive note.
Indeed.
Stalteri at Upton Park. I tell you, there's so many. Will, yes, Will. Love this shout. Ronnie hat trick was special too. Yeah, unbelievable.
Anyway, thank you guys. Great talking to you all as ever. And
John, best of luck
Thanks,
with
John.
everything at the hospital. Hope it all goes well.
thank you very
Yeah.
much. Go in Friday. Hope it all goes well.
Cheers. We'll speak.
Take
Sending
care,
love, John. See you
Cheers,
later.
mate. Take care.
Bye. I'd tell you what, just one, you talk about the Inter game very quickly. The goal where Bale knocked it one side of Mike on and ran the other, and just slotted it across for, was it Pavlyuchenko scored that
Yeah.
goal? Unbelievable. I've never, you talk about things that get you out your seat. It was just a magical moment, watching Gareth Bale in full flight on that goal. One of my favourites.
10. I was 10, so you can imagine how excited I was. It was unbelievable. I was also throw in there Kabul at the Emirates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Delhi
there's been a
Stonewall
lot.
at the bridge.
There's been a
Yeah.
lot.
We've got
To
some
be honest,
great shouts there.
even then, Crouch at the Etihad when we
Yeah.
qualified for the Champions League was
Yeah.
a hell of a moment. Of course, David Bentley, your mate, pouring the Lucasade or whatever it was over Harry Redknapp afterwards during his brilliant moment.
Brilliant. Right. Just to round things up, Craig, what have you made of today's show? It's been pretty depressing. It's been hard. It's been hard, hasn't it? Recording some of these shows sometimes, particularly after the transfer window that we have had. And it's funny, reading a lot of social media posts, people have been saying, I was going to try and, give my thoughts on the window, but so many people have said the same thing. Christian Romero has summed it up perfectly.
He has, yeah. He's kind of done a lot of journalist jobs for him, actually, by doing that. It's a sad state of affairs when your captain has to come out and say that. But do you know, I love that in my captain. I love that in hearing a player from the inside. He'll probably get in the crap for it, but Sky Sports reporting that now, so he's gone. If it wasn't worldwide already, or it is now. So it'd be interesting to see the fallout from that and how the club addressed that. Because he said,
what they're going to do? Ban him? We've got no players.
and he probably knows that. Yeah, he probably knows that. It's it needed to be said. So that's actually made me pleased tonight that a player's come out and said it, and not just any player, our captain. So yeah, I'm really glad Romero's done that, to be honest.
And Josh, what have you made of the show tonight?
Well, it was nice to reminisce and end on a high. But yeah, I mean, look, we're just where we all probably deep down thought we would be. Yeah, just hopefully now we've got some big games. Hopefully that second half against City can buoy us going forwards. But yeah, I mean, it does get depressing, doesn't it? And unfortunately, that the thing is, the only thing that can put that right is performances and results on the pitch.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Craig, thanks so much for joining us this evening. What are you up to at the moment? Where can people find you?
At Dimmer9 on X, if you want to follow me. I'm not up to much at all. I'm just reading the comments. Actually, asked Josh what his favourite sandwich is. That's a good point. We didn't ask you, Josh. What's your favourite sandwich?
Has this happened before? This is all to do with Thomas Frank's chicken sandwich.
Yes.
I wonder if they had a chicken sandwich after the game. We weren't going to sign anyone.
Honestly, Josh, you've got Craig banging on about sandwiches every week, and now you've got Ricky banging on about this goal.
Well, look, favourite sandwich. Oh my god. It's going to sound pretentious as anything, but there's a really nice sandwich that they do in Borough Market, and it's got like mortadella and pistachio and stracciatella in it. It's really nice. And someone's asked me if I'm wearing eyeliner. No, I'm not. I've just got long eyelashes. And I'm slightly tired. But thanks for the question.
I did promise. I did promise, by the way. I did promise. Firstly, I didn't understand a word you said about the sandwich ingredients. I haven't heard of any of them. So, yeah, that is pretentious. And secondly, if you've not seen it, look at that. Look at that. The goal of the season.
How many attempts did it take him?
Probably about 1 million, didn't it?
It's all AI. That's what I'm going to tell everyone now. AI. Yeah. It's amazing what AI can do. Craig and his videos. Right. Josh, what are you up to at the moment? Anything exciting?
Well, all will be revealed very shortly, but going to be starting off working for
OnlyFans.
Grow up, Craig. I'm going to be working at a new sports broadcaster from, well, is it next week? I think next week. So yeah, I'll talk about that more when I get there. But exciting new job, and you'll be hearing more from me.
We will.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
I'm being asked why I'm wearing a Poland top now, because I love it. I collect football tops, so yeah, and this is one that I particularly enjoy. Someone's also asked me about pineapple on pizza. No, absolutely not.
See, Craig started all that off last week as well. Right. Good night, everyone. Josh, thank you so much. Craig, thank you. If you've got any more questions for Josh, send them his way at Josh Hughes TV. So yes. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm sorry it's not the upbeat show that we wanted to bring you. We certainly wanted to be sitting here talking about a lot of brand new signings and reinforcements and impact players for Thomas Frank, but it is not to be in this transfer window. Sousa and Conor Gallagher have got over the line in this window, but we did hope for a lot more. But let's see how this season pans out. We've got a tough Feb coming up, starting... or continuing, should I say, against Manchester United on Saturday, and then followed by 2 home games, Newcastle at home midweek, and then, of course, that tough North London derby against Arsenal. Let's hope that we can beat them so City can go on to win the Premier League title. I'll finish on that note. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you again very soon. Come on, you Spurs.